Drive. Phil's studio is silent this Tuesday afternoon. The audience, consisting of about 200 people, waits in their seats with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. The lights are adjusted to create the characteristic program atmosphere, strong enough to capture every emotion, but also capable of intensifying any tear that may fall. At the center of the stage, a glass table gleams under the spotlights, and on it, covered by a black velvet cloth, rests a dark wooden box that seems to carry the weight of 18 years of mystery, pain, and unanswered questions. Dr. Phil McGraw enters the stage with his characteristic walk, confident, direct, no nonsense. He wears his impeccable suit and carries that expression that oscillates between professional skepticism and genuine human concern. He stops in front of the main camera, fixes his penetrating gaze on the lens, and begins with that tone that mixes urgency and empathy. Today, you're going to witness something that, in 22 years of doing this show, I never imagined I'd see. He begins, his voice echoing through the studio. We're going to open a box. Not just any box. It's a box that mysteriously arrived 3 weeks ago at the doorstep of a 24-year-old young man named Marcus Sullivan. Marcus hasn't seen his mother, Rachel Sullivan, since he was 6 years old. She disappeared on an October night in 2006 without a trace, without explanation, without a goodbye. And now, 18 years later, this box appears. Marcus never had the courage to open it alone. And today, in front of you, in front of the cameras, in front of me, he's going to open this box for the first time. The camera cuts to Marcus, sitting in one of the stage chairs. He's a young man of ordinary appearance, but carries in his eyes a depth that only comes from someone who spent their entire life carrying a hole in their chest. Disheveled brown hair, unshaven beard, hands visibly trembling even as he tries to keep them firmly resting on his knees. He wears a flannel shirt over a white t-shirt, faded jeans, the image of someone who woke up today not knowing if they'd have the strength to face the day. Doctor. Phil walks up to him and sits in the chair beside him, leaning slightly forward. That posture that says, I'm here to listen to you, but also to challenge you if necessary. Marcus, thank you for being here, Doctor. Phil says with a softer voice now. I know this isn't easy, so tell me, what do you remember about the night your mother disappeared? Marcus swallows hard. His voice comes out low, trembling, as if each word cost a piece of him. I was 6 years old. It was a Tuesday night, just like today. My mom put me to bed, kissed me on the forehead, and told me she loved me. I fell asleep, and when I woke up the next morning, she wasn't there anymore. My dad, or rather, the man I thought was my dad, Thomas, he was sitting in the kitchen with his face in his hands. He said she had gone away, that she needed to go away. I didn't understand. I cried, screamed, asked when she was coming back. He never answered. He just kept repeating, she's not coming back, Marcus. She can't come back. The audience is in absolute silence. Some people already have tears streaming down. Doctor. Phil keeps his gaze fixed on Marcus, but his jaw is tense. And you never heard from her again? No letter, no phone call, nothing, nothing. Marcus responds, slowly shaking his head. 18 years of silence. 18 years wondering if I had done something wrong, if she didn't love me, if I was the reason she left. 18 years waking up in the middle of the night, remembering her perfume, her voice singing that lullaby, and wondering if I was going crazy. Doctor. Phil leans back in his chair, processing. And then, 3 weeks ago, this box appears. Yes, Marcus confirms, now looking at the glass table where the box rests. I was coming back from work. It was late, almost midnight, and there it was, at my front door. It had no return address, no note on the outside. Just my name, handwritten, for Marcus Sullivan. Open when you're ready. The handwriting, I recognized it immediately. It was hers. It was my mother's. A murmur runs through the audience. Doctor. Phil raises an eyebrow. And you didn't open it? I tried, Marcus admits, his voice breaking. I held the box in my hands, took it inside, put it on the kitchen table. I stared at it for hours, but I couldn't. Because opening that box meant accepting that she was alive all this time and chose not to talk to me. Or it meant accepting that she's dead and this was her last message, and I wasn't ready for either option. Before we continue with this impactful story, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notification bell so you won't miss any of Dr. Phil's next revelations. Leave in the comments where you're watching from and what you think will happen in this case. Your opinion is very important for us to keep bringing this exclusive content that transforms lives. Doctor. Phil stands up and walks slowly around Marcus's chair like a predator studying its prey, but not in a cruel way, just observing every detail, every micro-expression. Marcus, you said the man I thought was my dad. What did you mean by that? Marcus takes a deep breath, as if preparing to dive into deep waters. When I was 16, Thomas, he killed himself, took an overdose of pills. Before he died, he left me a letter. In the letter, he admitted he wasn't my biological father. He said my mother was already pregnant when they met, that he knew it, that he accepted raising me as if I were his. But he never told me who my real father was. And after he died, I had no one else to ask. I was alone. I went to foster homes, left when I turned 18, tried to get my life together. But I always felt there was something bigger, something everyone knew except me. The camera focuses on Dr. Phil's face, and for the first time in a long time, he looks genuinely surprised. He sits back down, now closer to Marcus. You're telling me that your mother disappeared when you were 6. The man you called dad killed himself when you were 16 and confessed he wasn't your biological father, and now, 18 years after the disappearance, a box with her handwriting shows up at your door. Yes, Marcus responds simply. And you brought this box here, to this studio, because Marcus looks directly at Dr. Phil, and there's an intensity in his eyes that wasn't there before. Because I need witnesses. I need other people to see what's inside this box. Because if I open it alone, and what's in there is devastating, I don't know if I'll be able to handle it. But if I open it here, with you, with these people, then maybe I can find some kind of answer. Or at least, I won't be alone with whatever it is. Doctor. Phil nods slowly. All right. But before we open this box, I need you to tell me, what do you think is in there? What do you expect to find? Marcus hesitates. Tears begin to form in his eyes. I think I'm going to find the truth about why she abandoned me. And I'm afraid that truth is that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't worth staying for. The audience is absolutely silent now. Some people are openly crying. Doctor. Phil leans forward and places a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus, look at me. Look at me. Marcus raises his eyes. You need to understand something before we open this box. Whatever's in there, whatever your mother did or didn't do, that doesn't define your value. Do you understand? You're not defined by her choices. You're defined by your own choices. And you chose to be here, chose to seek the truth. That already says a lot about who you are. Marcus nods, wiping the tears with the back of his hand. Doctor. Phil stands up and walks to the glass table. He looks at the box covered by the velvet cloth, then looks back at Marcus. Are you ready? Marcus also stands up, his legs visibly trembling. He walks to the table and stands before it, as if standing before an abyss. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, but I need to do this. Doctor. Phil removes the velvet cloth with a slow and deliberate movement. The box is revealed. Dark wood, polished, with aged bronze clasps. On the lid, hand engraved, is the name, Marcus, my love. The camera does a close-up on the engraving, capturing every detail. This engraving, did your mother make it, Doctor? Phil asks. She did, Marcus confirms, his voice barely above a whisper. She engraved things in wood. She was an artist. She made boxes, small sculptures. That's how she made money before she left. Doctor. Phil looks at the box intently. Marcus, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Do you have any idea, any suspicion about why your mother left? Marcus shakes his head. No. I was too young, but Thomas, before he died, he wrote something in the letter. He said, your mother did what she had to do. She protected you the only way she could. Don't hate her. She loved you more than anything in this world. Protected you from what? Doctor. Phil presses. I don't know. Marcus explodes, his frustration finally overflowing. He never explained. He never gave me any answers. He just left me with more questions, more pain, more confusion. Doctor. Phil remains calm, letting Marcus vent. After a few seconds of heavy silence, he speaks softly. Then let's find the answers. Open the box, Marcus. Marcus extends his hand, his fingers touching the bronze clasps. They're cold, and he can feel the weight of years on them. With a slow movement, he opens the clasps.click. The sound echoes through the studio like a gunshot. He then lifts the box's lid. The lid opens completely, revealing the interior lined with red velvet. And inside there's a collection of carefully organized items. Marcus looks inside, his breathing becoming irregular. Tears begin streaming down his face. On top, there's a white envelope with the words, "Read first," written in large letters. Below the envelope, there are several photographs, some of him as a child, others of his mother holding him, some of people he doesn't recognize. There's also a pearl necklace, a small Bible with a worn cover, and what appear to be official documents with government seals. Marcus picks up the envelope with trembling hands and begins to open it. Doctor Phil approaches, watching attentively. Marcus pulls out several sheets of paper, handwritten letters. He begins to read the first one aloud, his voice breaking with each word. "My dear Marcus, if you're reading this, it means I finally found a way to send you the truth. I know you hate me. I know you spent all these years thinking you weren't good enough for me to stay. 18 years carrying a guilt that was never yours to carry. And today, you discovered that your mother never left because she didn't love you. She left because she loved you too much to let you die." Marcus stops reading, unable to continue. Doctor Phil gently takes the letters from his hands. "Marcus, do you want me to read?" Marcus nods, unable to speak. Doctor Phil continues reading, his strong voice echoing through the studio. "When you were born, I was running. I was 19 years old and had witnessed something I should never have seen. I worked as a waitress at a restaurant in Boston. One night, I was closing alone when 3 men came in. They didn't know I was there, in the back, cleaning the kitchen. I heard an argument, then I heard screams, and then silence. When I came out to see what was happening, I saw a dead man on the floor and the other 3 running away. I saw their faces, and they saw me." The audience lets out a collective gasp of shock. Doctor Phil continues, his expression becoming increasingly serious. "I was pregnant with you. I had no family, no money, no one. I went to the police, told them what I had seen. They told me that the men I had seen were members of a powerful criminal organization, that I was in danger, that you were in danger. They offered me protection, but I refused. I was young, stupid, thought I could run away and raise you in peace. Then I met Thomas. He was kind, safe. He knew I was pregnant, knew I was scared, but never asked too much. He just loved me. And for 6 years, I thought everything was fine, that they had forgotten about me." Doctor Phil stops reading for a moment, looking at Marcus, who now has his face in his hands, sobbing silently. Phil looks back at the letters and continues. "But they hadn't forgotten. In October 2006, a man showed up at our door. He said he knew who I was, said he knew where you went to school, what your route home was, who your friends were. He said that if I didn't disappear and never contacted you or Thomas again, he would make you disappear. And not the way I disappeared. The way that man disappeared that night at the restaurant. So I did what I had to do. I disappeared." Doctor Phil stops again. He looks at the camera, then back at Marcus. "Marcus, there's more." Marcus lifts his face, his eyes red and swollen. Continue. Please. Doctor Phil takes a deep breath and resumes reading. "I entered the Federal Witness Protection Program 3 days after leaving. They changed my name, changed my appearance, moved me to the other side of the country. I couldn't call you, couldn't write to you, couldn't see you, because any contact would put you at risk. Thomas knew. I told him everything before I left, and he agreed to protect you, to raise you as if you were his, to never tell the truth until it was safe. But then Thomas couldn't bear it anymore." Doctor Phil pauses, his voice becoming heavier. "The weight of keeping this secret, of watching you suffer every day asking about me, of not being able to tell you the truth that would ease your pain, it destroyed him from the inside. He developed severe depression. He felt guilty for lying to you, guilty for not being able to comfort you the way you needed. The doctors prescribed medication, but nothing helped. He wrote to me through the protected channels we had established, and I could read the desperation in his words. He was drowning in the burden of protecting you while watching you hurt. And one night, when the pain became too much, he made a terrible choice. He ended his life, and I couldn't go to the funeral, couldn't hold you, couldn't tell you I was alive." The studio is completely silent now. Doctor Phil's voice drops lower. "And now, Marcus, The men who made me run are dead or in prison. The case is closed. And finally, after 18 years, I can tell you the truth. I never abandoned you. I never stopped loving you. And if you'll let me, I want to come back into your life. I want to meet the man you've become. I want to hug you one more time and tell you how sorry I am for everything you went through. Inside this box are documents that prove everything I'm saying. And there's also my new address, my new name, and my phone number. If you want to see me, I'll be waiting. With all my love, always your mother, Rachel. The studio is in total silence. There's not a single sound besides the muffled sobs of audience members. Marcus is completely still, his hands covering his face, his body shaking with the weight of 18 years of pain, confusion, and finally, truth. Phil slowly closes the letters and places them back in the box. He then does something he rarely does on the show. He looks directly at the main camera and raises a hand, making a universal gesture. Stop filming now. The studio enters silent chaos. The camera operators look at each other, confused. The producer beside the stage makes frantic gestures, but Dr. Phil remains firm, his hands still raised. I said, stop filming. Turn off the cameras, everyone. And slowly, one by one, the red lights on the cameras go out. What happened in the next 30 minutes was never broadcast live. The cameras remain off, the audience was gently escorted out of the studio, and only Dr. Phil, Marcus, and 2 essential crew members remained. This moment, this sacred space of pain and revelation, was not for public consumption. It was for Marcus. It was for him to process, without the eyes of millions on him. Dr. Phil sat next to Marcus, on the stage floor, something he had never done into decades of the show. Marcus had the documents from the box scattered around him, death certificates of the men who threatened his mother, official documents from the Witness Protection Program, photographs of her over the years, always looking at the camera with that expression of longing that only a mother separated from her child could have. She took pictures of me, Marcus whispered, holding a photograph of himself at 17, leaving school. She was watching me all this time. She never really left me. Dr. Phil placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. No, Marcus, she never left. She made the most impossible sacrifice a mother can make. She let you live, even if it meant living without her. Marcus looked at the card with the address and phone number. What if she doesn't really want to see me? What if this is just to ease her conscience? Then you call that number and find out, Dr. Phil responded with his characteristic frankness. But Marcus, a mother who spent 18 years taking pictures of you from afar, who put together this box with so much care, who included every proof necessary so you wouldn't doubt her. That's not a mother trying to ease her conscience. That's a mother who never stopped being a mother. It was at this moment that Dr. Phil showed Marcus something he had noticed but hadn't mentioned in front of the cameras. At the bottom of the box, under all the documents, there was a small object wrapped in tissue paper. Marcus picked it up carefully and unwrapped it. It was a small worn teddy bear, the same bear he had slept with every night until he was 6 years old, the same bear he thought had been thrown away when his mother left. But no, she had taken it with her, and now, 18 years later, she was returning it. Marcus held the bear against his chest, and, for the first time since entering the studio, he didn't cry from pain. He cried from relief. She kept it all this time, Marcus said, his voice full of wonder and disbelief. She held the same bear I would have held if I could. She maintained that connection. Dr. Phil nodded. She did. And now you have a choice. You can let the last 18 years define the rest of your life, or you can make a call and start recovering lost time. It won't be easy. It'll be complicated, confusing, full of difficult emotions. But Marcus, it's worth it. Believe me when I say, it's worth it. Marcus looked at the card in his hands. Then, with trembling fingers, he took his cell phone from his pocket. Dr. Phil watched in silence as Marcus dialed the number. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, and then a female voice answered. Hello? Marcus couldn't speak. His vocal cords simply didn't work. But he didn't need to, because the voice on the other end continued, carrying 18 years of longing and hope. Marcus, is it you, my love? Is it really you? And finally, Marcus found his voice. Mom. Yes, it's me. What happened on that call remains between Marcus and his mother. But when Dr. Phil signaled for the cameras to be turned back on 15 minutes later, Marcus was different, still vulnerable, still processing, but there was something new in his eyes, hope. When the camera started recording again, the audience was allowed to return. They entered quietly, feeling they had missed something important, but respecting that that moment needed to be private. Marcus was now sitting in the chair, the teddy bear still in his hands, a small bag with the documents and photographs by his side. Doctor. Phil was standing at the center of the stage, his expression serious, but also soft in a way that's rarely seen. He looked directly at the camera and began to speak, not as a host, but as a human being. In 22 years of doing this show, I've heard thousands of stories. I've seen families destroyed, relationships ruined, lives shattered by bad choices and terrible circumstances. But today I witnessed something different. I witnessed the greatest sacrifice a human being can make. The sacrifice of a mother who chose to disappear from the life of the child. She loved more than anything, not out of selfishness, not out of weakness, but to keep him alive. He paused, letting the word settle. We live in a society that loves to judge. We love to point fingers and say that mother abandoned her child, that father wasn't present, that family is dysfunctional. And sometimes those criticisms are deserved. But other times there's a story behind the story. There's a hidden truth that explains the inexplicable. And when we discover that truth, we're forced to confront our own judgments and prejudices. Doctor. Phil walked to Marcus and placed a hand on his shoulder. Marcus spent 18 years believing he wasn't good enough for his mother to stay. 18 years carrying a guilt that was never his to carry. And today, he discovered that his mother never left because she didn't love him. She left because she loved him too much to let him die. He looked back at the camera. I stopped the recording today because there are moments in life that are too sacred to be exploited. There are pains too deep to be turned into entertainment. And when a young man discovers that his mother sacrificed 18 years of her own life to save him, when he makes his first call to her in almost 2 decades, that moment doesn't belong to us. It belongs to them. The audience remained in reverent silence. Doctor. Phil continued. But now, with Marcus's permission, I can share with you the lesson this case teaches us. And the lesson is this: true love, a mother's love, unconditional love that defines the very essence of humanity. That love sometimes manifests in ways we can't understand at first glance. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. Sometimes protecting someone means disappearing from that person's life. And when we judge without knowing the complete story, when we condemn without understanding the circumstances, we become accomplices to the pain that person is already feeling. He turned to Marcus. Marcus, you talked to your mother. You heard her voice for the first time in 18 years. What do you want to say to the people watching now? Marcus wiped the tears from his face and looked at the camera. His voice was hoarse but firm. I spent half my life hating my mother. I woke up every day with anger, with pain, wondering what was wrong with me. And today I discovered nothing was wrong with me. That my mother did what any mother would do. She saved me. And now I have a chance to get to know her again, to rebuild what was stolen from us. And I want to tell anyone going through something similar, don't give up hope. Because sometimes the truth you need is waiting to be discovered. And when you discover it, everything changes. Doctor. Phil nodded and turned back to the camera. Rachel Sullivan, if you're watching, thank you for trusting me with your son's story. Thank you for having the courage to send that box. And most importantly, thank you for being the kind of mother who chooses sacrifice over selfishness. You saved your son's life. And today, he knows it. He made a long pause, letting the weight of that moment fill the studio. For all of you watching at home, before judging someone, before assuming you know the whole story, ask yourself, what am I not seeing? What truth might be hidden beneath the surface? Because often, the person you're judging is carrying a burden you can't imagine. And a little compassion, a little patience to hear the complete story, that can change everything. Doctor. Phil extended his hand to Marcus, who accepted it and stood up. They hugged, not a performative hug for the cameras, but a genuine embrace between two men who shared a moment of profound truth. When they separated, Doctor. Phil held Marcus by the shoulders and looked directly into his eyes. You're going to be okay, Marcus. It won't be easy. There will be difficult moments, complicated conversations, confusing emotions. But you're going to be okay, because now you have something you didn't have before. You have the truth. And the truth, as painful as it may be, is always better than the lie we tell ourselves. Marcus nodded, clutching the teddy bear against his chest. "Thank you, Drive.Phil, for everything. Doctor." Phil turned one last time to the camera. "I stop recordings. I really do this. But when I do, it's because I recognize there are moments in human life that transcend television, that transcend entertainment. Moments that remind us of what really matters: family, truth, sacrifice, love." Marcus's case isn't about drama. It's about redemption. It's about a mother who chose to live with the pain of separation so her son could live without the pain of death. And if that doesn't deserve our respect, our reverence, our humanity, then we've completely lost what it means to be human. He made one last pause, letting his words echo. Thank you for watching. And remember, the truth can take 18 years to appear. But when it does, it transforms everything. The camera slowly faded to black, but not before capturing the last image. Marcus holding the teddy bear his mother kept for 18 years, with a small smile on his face. A smile not of complete happiness, but of relief out of hope, of new beginnings. The studio remained silent for several seconds after the cut, and then, spontaneously, the audience stood up, not in dramatic applause, but in a silent gesture of respect, because everyone there understood they had witnessed something rare, a moment of pure truth in a world full of falsehood. Marcus left the studio that afternoon with a bag full of photographs, documents, and memories. But more importantly, he left with something he didn't have when he entered, the certainty that he was loved, always was, and always would be. 2 weeks later, Marcus and Rachel met in person at a small cafe in Seattle, where she now lives under her new name. The cameras weren't present. The media wasn't invited. It was just a mother and her son reconnecting threads that were never really cut, just suspended in time. The story of Marcus Sullivan and Rachel Sullivan didn't end in that studio. In fact, it only began. But what the Dr. Phil show showed us was something that transcends any script, any planning, any television manipulation. It showed us that a mother's love is capable of enduring 18 years of silence. That true sacrifice doesn't seek recognition, and that sometimes the most important truth is hidden inside a wooden box, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. And when Dr. Phil said stop filming, he wasn't just protecting Marcus. He was teaching us that there are things in life that are more important than ratings, more sacred than entertainment, more valuable than any viral on social media. He was teaching us to be human again.